Today's episode is sponsored by S&S Therapy Services. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to We Empower. The mission of this organization and this podcast is to help you find your purpose. We will introduce you to individuals who will help you set goals and implement a plan of action to reach those goals. Today's guest is originally from Georgia and now a San Antonio native.
She currently works for Envision Physician Services based out of Clearwater, Florida. She holds several associate's degrees, including cosmetology, human resources, and business management.
On top of all that, she is a model and a devoted Christian. Please help me in welcoming my dear friend, Talisha Story.
I moved here to San Antonio about 2 years ago, back in 2017. The company I work for at the hospital, Envision Physician Services, moved me here to help with the biggest launch that they had ever done, which was all of Methodist hospitals. And of course, when they asked me to move from Georgia to San Antonio, I didn't have a problem. Just picking up and coming. And so I don't think it was by happenstance. I think everything happens for a reason. And so that got me here, and I got here and just different things transpired once I got here. So I'm great. I'm glad to just be here and have this opportunity.
Good. Well, can you tell me how many children do you have?
I have 2 children. I have a 27-year-old daughter who's in the Army, and I have a 23-year-old son that's in the Air Force. Okay. And of course, I cannot forget.
Little rivalry there.
Yes, and I cannot forget I have a soon-to-be 11-year-old granddaughter.
And because I know how special she is to you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, that's my heart right there.
So, in the line of work that you do, tell me some of the challenges you face.
In the line of work that I do with Envision, probably the most challenging is being African American for this company. Company is based out of Clearwater, and so there is not too many that look like me with the company. I'm grateful that when I stepped into the company, I was able to prove myself enough where even coming up on this current week, they're actually flying me to Florida to interview for a promotion.
Woo, look at God.
So, I count it an honor to even be able to, be in that arena, because even interviewing as a supervisor for this company, there's no one that looks like me.
Good.
Wow. So.
One of the reasons I asked you that I'm glad you led there is not looking like others. Oftentimes as women, and even women of color, we are unsure of what beauty may look like because we're told or inferred sometimes that it doesn't look like us.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other things you do?
Yeah, so some of the other things that I do is I model. I've been modeling for currently about 11 years. I started modeling in Augusta, Georgia for a boutique called Curvitude Boutique. The owner is Kimberly Beasley. And when I started modeling, most people think that I started modeling because somebody told me I was pretty. And no, it had nothing to do with someone telling me that I was pretty, But I had gone through so much in my life, and I was on the road or on the journey of learning who exactly Talisha was. And so when I stepped into the arena of modeling, I opened myself up to a whole world of different things because I wanted people to know the story behind the glory. I wanted them to
like
know
that.
I wanted them, I wanted them to know when she smiles, what's behind that smile.
Yes.
And that's how I ended up in modeling, and it has opened up a whole arena for me. The reason I stepped into it is because at a young age I was raped and molested. I was raped and molested by my father. And from the time I was 8.5 to the time I was 15. And that I did not realize until I was about 37, after going through 19 years of anger, how I didn't know why I was angry, but once God began to show me that I had issues that I had never dealt with, that I had packed down in the left corner pocket of my heart.
Yes. Yeah.
And so what God allowed me to do is he showed me, back in the day when I was a little girl, I used to rake yards, and he showed me what is called a bow rake. And a bow rake is one of those rakes that's very stern and it's clawed. And when you grab hold to something that's in the ground with it, it can grab a vine, and that rake is so strong that it can, wherever that vine, the root of that vine is, it is strong enough to pull it until you get to the very root of it. And so that was what God gave me in order to pull all of that out of the left corner pocket of my heart, so that I could deal with each issue and dissect each and every issue that I was dealing with, that I had never dealt with before. At that time, back then, you didn't go to a therapist.
Yeah, that was
minorities.
Yes, and that was one of the
culture.
things I was going to bring out with our culture and being minorities. It's not common that you can afford, or do you talk about and go.
Absolutely.
So you're saying now you're in your 30s. At what point did you first seek counseling?
I did not go to counseling until this past year.
Good for you.
So that was I'm 46 now when I actually sought counseling. But I will say this, God is such a wonderful counselor, because he literally strategically walked me through step by step as to what I needed to do to get to the point of going to a therapist last year. And it was literally, I had to write letters to my abusers.
Yep.
And in writing those letters, it was, God said to me, no, you don't give them the letters, you read them the letters.
Yes.
Because I had to continue to purge myself and pull all of this out of me, all the hurt, all the pain that I was going through. And my father wasn't the problem. And my dad, he apologized, at the end of the day. But the biggest problem was my mother. That was the biggest problem. My mother's letter was longer. It was about 30 pages long, actually. And one thing that I had to learn going through that journey is that some apologies you will never get. And you have to be okay with that.
It's true.
You
That's
have, because
very
at the end of the day, if not, it will drain you trying to get something from somebody and you will never get it.
That's true.
And so I knew that was an apology. I knew I would not give that apology, because anytime anyone will step to you and say, you should have been over it already, at the end of the day, you know what? Of course, after wrecking her kitchen and all of that and going through that process, at the end of the day, it was all about my peace and where I needed to be. Because what most people don't realize is, because I had gone through those 19 years of anger, I also was married, I had children, and so that anger poured over into my children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at least my son, not so much. He's the baby. He's the 23-year-old, so not so much impacted him, but it impacted my daughter quite a bit.
A lot of it has to do with the relationship you had with Mom.
What about?
You said 30 pages. Like, tell me a
Right.
little bit about how long and what happened with why was the 30 pages with Mom?
The
What was
reason-
there? Did
right.
she know about everything that was going on with you?
Of course, she said she did not. That she said she did not know. However, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
As we get older and we start thinking back and then writing those 30 pages and
Yeah.
even going through the process of currently writing, finishing up my book, you realize that, no, you knew. I can remember an instance where I know she knew. I know I saw her face and I can see your face looking over me. But you saw me. You saw me there lying naked on the floor. You saw
Yeah.
me. So the 30 pages for my mom, it took, I went all the way back to that little girl. I went all the way back to
You have to.
the baby doll tops and the cute little panties that you purchased, and coming to the realization that, you know what, at the end of the day, you was grooming me.
Yes.
And the big part of it is I was born into this. I was born into a family of incest. And so at the end of the day, no one protected me.
Yeah.
And
No
unfortunately, that's the big thing, is most
Right.
of the times it's cycles that are not broken.
Yeah,
so you're
absolutely.
one of the first ones probably to break that cycle.
Right. And so over time, and so those 30 pages was literally where I had talked to different aunts, or different aunts had come to me and said, hey, I told your mom that this is what happened with me, that, your dad did this to me, or my brothers did this to me. And I told her that if she didn't do anything about it, that I was going to tell, they were going to tell my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And so for years, I was actually ostracized from my family because my mom actually chose my father
Yeah.
over me. And so I went to foster care, who was a cousin of the family, but I went to live with them, for a while until finally their marriage became a demise. But at the end of the day,
So your mom chose dad instead of believing her child, and she sent you away to deal with the problem. You were the problem.
right,
In her eyes.
in her eyes. And so I was ostracized. So I was ostracized from the story side of my family. I didn't see my family until I was almost 28 years old again. So because, everybody was like, no, she's lying, and even though they knew I was telling the truth, at the end of the day, they were, no, she's lying. That didn't happen. That's not true. Even though they knew, the sisters knew that it had happened to them.
Right.
So,
In hindsight, you mentioned that you have been married, and it had an effect, of course, on you and your relationship, I'm assuming, with your spouse and also with your children.
correct.
Tell us a little bit about that and how that poured over into your marriage.
The way that it poured over into my marriage, we were churchy people. We were always in the church and bless the Lord and everybody pray for you. And instead of going to counseling, that was the thing.
Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That was, pray about it. God take care of it, or, keep it swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And so because I was hurting, I hurt him. We were married. He's the father of my children, so we were married for 23 years. And about year 18, I did the worst thing I probably could have ever done to him, which was I cheated on him.
Mm-hmm.
Still to this day, it breaks my heart to even talk about it, even not necessarily talk about it, but we have talked about it. We've gotten past it. They're best friends for life. But because you're trying to numb a pain, or you trying to numb whatever the problem is, or whatever is going on with you, you're just doing whatever, and you just become reckless. And so hurt people. And so therefore I hurt him. And then as far as with my daughter, for the first 9 years of her life, I would just beat her. I would just beat her for no reason. And I'm going to say for no reason, actually. And that's because it would be something as simple like she would come home with a bad grade, I would beat her. I'm not talking about whoop. I'm not talking about spank. I'm talking about I would beat her.
Did that happen to you, though? Was Mom like that with you?
when I came out and finally told my mother that what was happening with me and my dad, or what my dad was doing to me, she beat me with the handle of a broom.
At what age were you?
I was 15 when I was told. I was 15. But I was so angry. So every little thing, it was like every little thing my baby did, I would just beat her for it. Yeah. And I can remember one day, just like it was yesterday, she came home from school, she came with a bad grade, and I was getting ready to beat her again, and she yelled out, "Mommy, I'm being bullied at school." Mm-hmm. And from that point on, I don't think she ever got another whooping, because later on, I realized not only was my baby being bullied at school, she was being bullied at home.
Right.
So I was the big bad bully that she couldn't come to and tell that, "Hey, Mommy, I'm being bullied at school." And of course, once she told me, yes, I went and I showed her that I'll protect you. But she didn't know I would protect her because I was her bully.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you say and you're talking about are things that a lot of people cannot be very transparent about. And so, first of all, I want to commend you and thank you for being able to be transparent, because these are things that will help other people heal.
Right.
And let me ask you, what is your relationship now like with your daughter?
Now, my relationship with my daughter, we are best friends, and if I don't say we best friends, she will run me down.
She gonna watch this.
But no, we are the best of friends. I love her to pieces. I can talk to her about anything. And one thing I will have to say, she and I had a conversation, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, or maybe a year, maybe last year. And sometimes, like, because of what I had a hand in with her, she ended up suffering severe depression and different anxiety and all of that. And so we had a conversation, and I asked her why did she feel that she had all of this going on with her. And so when you ask those type questions, you got to be ready for the answer that you're going to get.
Most definitely.
And so the answer was, "Well, Mama, you used to beat me all the time, and I was afraid of you. I was afraid to come home and things like that." And I had to be open to hear from my baby's heart what really was going on with her. And I really believe that, because she was able to get that out to me, it showed me at that time how my story from what I went through and how her story merges. Connected, and we're able to impact. Right now she's a life coach, and so we're able to impact so many people's lives because of that.
Can relate on a personal level.
Right.
A lot of times, especially in minority communities, discipline is very harsh. Mm-hmm. Of course, maybe not as harsh to the extreme we're talking about, but it is, and it's very difficult for parents to admit that their parenting style is wrong, because we are taught generationally that that's how you're supposed to discipline.
But it was normal back for them, so it's normal here.
Exactly. And I can say probably my granddaughter, she don't know what that's like.
This generation doesn't know what it's like.
She know what a punishment is and how to get something taken, but she does not know anything of like what my daughter went through. So
I do want to mention you hold very vast majority types of degrees.
Yes.
And you're also a cosmetologist. In your search and your quest, what made you want to have so many different varied degrees? What was your push?
My push was I wanted to not just prove to the world, but prove to myself that I could do whatever I wanted to do.
Good.
Mm-hmm. And that no matter what I had gone through in my life, nothing would hold me back. And that's what my push is. My push is at the end of the day, no matter who I come in contact with, I want them to know that just because you experienced the trauma doesn't mean you gotta live in that trauma.
And I think an important message to you sent is just because you also cause trauma does not mean you cannot change.
Correct.
It's true.
Correct. That's one, because something that I learned a couple months ago is that sometimes we will have a trauma. We will go through a trauma, and because that trauma happened to us, then it's repeated. It doesn't have to go that way.
You break the cycle.
You can break the cycle. So just because my father may have been abused does not mean he had to abuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, I was raped and molested, but I didn't go and rape and molest. Of course, it came a different way.
In the anger.
In the anger and the rage, it came a different way. However, I did not have to do that particular act. And so it's a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice that we make.
You have a strong history of divinity. I know that personally, so I'm able to say that. Tell us a little bit about that side of Miss Story.
Well, that side of me is I've always been in church, raised and born and raised in the church, and did not really accept the call of God on my life until about 2006. I knew that God's hand was on me because there was just no way that I could go through what I went through and attempt suicide twice and still be here. I love God very much, but I love the people of God. And I want to, my motto is to be to others that which I did not have. And in whatever area that looks like, it's not always in the four walls of the church itself. My ministry reaches farther than the four walls of the church. What happens in the church, I'm grateful. But at the end of the day, I need my impact to be more than just in those four walls.
Yep.
Because when I was going through mine, I needed somebody to reach me.
Right.
And I get the question so many times as to, Talisha, you're so hard. Why are you so hard? Or when they see my face, they're like, oh, you're not smiling. I'm like, it's not that there's not a smile there. But at the end of the day, the reason I'm hard because I'm determined. I'm focused. And I'm on a mission to reach however many people, however many men, however many women that I'm able to reach. That's where my mindset is. My mindset, I never stop. I never stop thinking. I never stop grinding. I never stop hustling because of the fact that it's people that I have to reach. I have to get to them at the end of the day so that they can be free, so that they can be made whole.
What advice can you give somebody right now that could be going through what you've gone through? What would you tell them to do at this moment?
What I would tell them to do, I also, I've created a group, a private group called # The Little Girl Lost Movement. And in this particular group, it's a group where not everybody can get in. If you can't answer the questions, you can't get in. But it is a group that I've created that God birthed through me a couple months ago. And the way that I got to it, and I'm going to answer your question, but the way that I got to the group or birthing the group is because
we're going to add a link for it on here.
Right, and a particular gentleman, a pastor, was talking to me, and he said, Talisha, he cried once I ran my story through to him, but he says, there's something I need for you to do. There's some homework I need for you to do. He said, out of everything you've done, out of every letter you've written, there's something you haven't done. And I was like, well, what haven't I done? He says, you don't have to physically do this, but you have to ask yourself the hard questions. And I was like, the hard questions? He was like, yes. Daddy, why did you do this to me? Mommy, why did you allow this? And so I had to sit there. He was like, you have to type this out tonight. So I'm up at 10:30 at night, and I'm sitting there at the laptop, and I'm looking like, what? am I supposed to say? And I just closed my eyes, and when I closed my eyes, I just began to type. And when I began to type, I began to and ask these hard questions, and it brought up emotions that I had never
Suppressed.
tapped into.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so for 2 weeks, I was distraught.
Yeah.
I
You
was
opened up a box you
distraught.
couldn't close.
Pandora's box.
You open it up,
Yes,
and it all comes
exactly.
pouring out.
And I was like, oh my God. I mean, literally, I'm talking about y'all crying. I was like, what in the world? And what God began to show me over that time was, I need you to be able to feel these emotions.
Get it feel to heal.
Yes, he said, because what I am now birthing into you is individuals that are now going to come, and that you're going to have to be able to recognize those emotions that they present to you. And so that is how I got. And so if I had to say to anyone, you know, what to do or what to say or how to get to this place, for one, trust and believe you're not the only one that has gone through this. You are not out here by yourself. There are a lot of people that are sitting amongst us. There is one in every 4 individuals that sit next to us have been abused sexually.
It's true.
And so you're not out here alone. But I promise you, you have to get to a place where you trust someone. You trust the individual that will take you by the hand, whether I can reach you physically or where I can reach you audibly, and take you by the hand and say, let's walk this out together. There is no other way. The hashtag, the Little Girl Lost movement, I never thought it would have taken off the way it has taken off, how it has reached people from Barbados to Kentucky to Virginia to New York. I never, and it wasn't people that was invited into the group. These are people that was Googling or that was searching social media, and she said, yours was the first to come up. I've only established it back on January the 13th.
How many people you have following now?
So right now I have 26 faithful people that are in that group. And it's like I told, if I don't get another, I'm really okay with that.
Yeah.
Because as long as I can reach one, I'm okay with that.
You're going to reach all of them. And they're going to bring in more.
Right, and they're going to bring in, and that's what I try to teach them. And it's like I told them, I don't have a doctorate. I don't have a master's. I don't have any of that. But I have life experiences that to me trumps all of that. Yep. And I will be able to walk you through the entire process. I will give you what God has given me.
What would you go back and tell, because that's a you reflective that has done some healing, what would you go back to that small child, that 15-year-old who first made that outcry, because they may not have that power of support, or that young child that has told mom and mommy doesn't believe, or ostracizes like yours did?
For me, it took that one teacher. It took that one teacher that said, yes, this happened. And I stayed with her for a while. I stayed with her and her husband for a while because it was that one person that believed me, that knew that I was not lying, that knew I was telling her the truth. And just so happened she was a pastor. She was a pastor, and she was able to help me through the process. And her and her husband took me in and made their home a safe haven for me. And there's that one person, there's that one friend, there's that one person that you can reach that will say, okay, I believe you. I trust you.
So what you said, the message is, don't give up. If one doesn't believe, keep talking.
Keep talking. And that's one thing about hashtag the Little Girl Lost movement is I didn't want it to just be a group. I wanted it to be a movement. Yeah. I wanted to continue to keep moving, just like a train that, okay, when I reach you, I go to the next one, and it keeps going and going. And, a lot of people say, oh, it's like and not knocking against it or anything, but a lot of people say, oh, it's just like the Me Too movement. And I was like, no, it's not like the Me Too movement.
Not even close. So you did mention that you have a book you're working on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the title of my book is called The Little Girl Lost, parentheses, Was. I started it.
I like that.
I like that.
Started it like 8 years ago. Like, literally, I'm behind time. But, all in God's timing. And so I completed the book in November. I completed my portion of it. And so I had sent it to into the editing process, and got to the editing process, and I didn't like anything they was trying to tell me to change, to be totally honest, because I felt that it was taking away from my story. It was taking away from what I was saying and what I'm portraying to the people. And so therefore I changed all of that up, and so I decided that I'm self-publishing it.
Good.
On my own.
Good go, girl.
And so hopefully my goal is, it's in the proofreading process right now, so hopefully by March, my goal is on my granddaughter's birthday, which is March 12th, I plan to have the first book published.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah, so I'm excited about it. The book is my baby. It actually led into the last 2 words of the book led into the second book. And I think the most prideful thing for me in the book is probably the ending of the book, where I want individuals to hear my voice.
Good.
And let them know that trauma is trauma, no matter what type of trauma it is, and that you, even though you went through it, it's not who you are.
Yeah.
And even though it was sent to break you, it made you. And we have to get to a place where we see that that experience made us who we are. That if it wasn't for my experiences, if it wasn't for my trauma, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today. And that's one thing with the movement. If I had to live it, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again to save whoever needed to be saved.
What's next for you? You've got the book is coming. What do you see happening after?
My goal is, I would love to do something for men, because men have experienced sexual trauma as well.
And they're told they can't speak and
told
feel.
That's right. They're told they can't speak. They're told they can't feel. They're told they can't show any emotions. And you're a man. You got to be hard. And so my next thing is I want to do something for the men. I believe that this movement is going to put me on a movement, as far as even with different book tours and book signings and things like that. I want to be able to reach whomever I can during all of this.
What platform is your books going to be available? Amazon?
It'll be Lulu, Amazon, Barnes & Noble currently. And after the book is published, I am looking into doing a audiobook.
Awesome.
Because I want them to be able to hear me.
Yeah, they're driving or just having that.
Exactly, because sometimes the young lady that's proofreading it, she was like, it's like I'm reading a movie. She says, like, I'm reading a movie, and she said, I can hear your voice. She said, you really need to look at doing it as an audio so people can really hear your voice.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. How can people find you right now? Just the hashtag? Do you have a website possibly coming out sooner?
Possibly.
For you.
But right now, hashtag the Little Girl Lost Movement will link them right to me. Like I said, they have particular questions that they have to answer in order to get into this particular group, and that's because I want it to be very safe.
Yeah.
And I don't take too kindly to just spectators. Yeah. So I screen everyone that comes that is attempting to get into the group, because I want to know I want to know their motives. I want to know why, because at the end of the day, this is my baby. This is what God has given me, and I have to protect it at all costs. And that means protect everybody that's included in this group.
Anything else you'd like people to know about you?
Besides your heart of gold.
Even though this particular group is for the hashtag, the Little Girls Lost movement is for women. It is for women of age, grown women that have gone through this type of trauma and never spoken a word of it. I'm also a mentor here in San Antonio with a group for sexually exploited girls from the age of 10 to 19. So to be able to merge the two. So here I am, for me, is looking at myself as a child when I'm dealing with them. And also here I am as an adult. So I'm on both spectrums. I'm able to witness and speak to both on both ends.
It's amazing.
Right.
Good for you. You doing this right now, you're going to reach a lot of people. People are going to be able to relate to you. And I want to thank you for coming in and just giving us the opportunity and being transparent to talk about that.
Right.
Being able to say, I was a perpetrator and a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, like she said, just won't. They don't want to admit it.
Right.
And you've learned from it, and now you're going to help so many other people.
Right. And one thing that I learned as far as being transparent, it has caused, that's where my breakthrough came. My breakthrough came from being transparent. And, a lot of people can't believe, like, to this day, my family would prefer I don't say a word.
Of course not.
And, of course, majority of them don't even know that I've written a book or anything like that, and which is fine. But it's my story.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my story, and my story will help others to build their story. And that's all. And it's just a movement that's going to story after story and continue to move throughout the world. And that's all that I care about. It's not about gaining money. It's not about being famous. It's all about reaching those individuals that are stuck. Those individuals that are stuck in this and can't get out of it. It's so many women in their 60s and 70s that never spoken of it. And to go back, last year my grandmother passed. The grandmother that they were going to tell if they didn't admit to what was happening to me. She passed away last year. And when she passed away, we were sitting at her house, and I saw one of my cousins coming across the yard, and I asked them, I said, "What's wrong with her?" And they was like, "Oh, she's just her." And I said, "No, I recognize it."
You know the
And
signs.
I said, "I know the signs." And of course, she's 50-something, and she's like, "No, I'll never tell. I never tell," because they've moved on with their life. And after that, we were sitting there, and some of the sisters and stuff came out, and they was like, "Listen, we lived this all of our lives." And so my question was, do y'all think that Grandma didn't know? And they was like, "Oh, never." Okay, I will let you guys continue to believe that.
Yeah.
I'll let you continue to believe that. But at the end of the day, I know better because I lived it. I know better. And so it's just, for me, it's just about this gate. This is my heart. This is my passion. This is my drive. And it's something that I absolutely love doing because I want people to know that they are not out here alone by themselves.
I thank you for coming too and being so transparent. But one of the things that Talisha is really good, of course her last name is Story. One of the things is the story behind the story, and I think that's something that will always stick with me about you.
Right.
There is a story behind that story, and a lot of people need to hear it and read it.
Right, absolutely. Thank you.
One thing I want to say to any of our viewers that are hearing or watching this, if you are in a situation and you're afraid to speak, don't be, because there's many people around, even through our website,
Yes.
www.weempower.com. If you or want to reach out, we're therapists. If you want to reach out to us just to be able to voice that, we can give you've got a contact here, a perfect person to reach out to for help. Definitely just speak up. You're not alone.
Absolutely.
And don't give up. If you tell once and you're not believed, there's someone who will believe you.
Exactly. Even if wherever they are in the world, even if it's contacting me through the group, at the end of the day, trust me, I believe you. I believe you because I know what it's like not to be believed.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you all guys for tuning in today, and we will see you again very soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
For more information on their services, please visit their website at www.sstherapyinc.org.